The Meridian Club sits 43 floors above Manhattan, a temple of mahogany and crystal, where membership costs more than most people earn in a decade. The air smells of aged whiskey and old money, that particular combination of leather, sandalwood, and quiet power that clings to places where fortunes are made and lost between appetizer and dessert. Tonight, the Vandermeer Room hosts 7 men who collectively control 18% of global pharmaceutical distribution. Their laughter bounces off walls adorned with original Rothkos, each canvas worth more than the annual GDP of small nations. Crystal chandeliers scatter light across a table, set with silver that has served presidents, princes, and predators alike. And in the corner, nearly invisible against the dark paneling, stands Maya Chen, 26 years old, black uniform, white apron, hair pulled back so tight it makes her temples ache. She holds a silver pitcher of ice water, her hands steady despite the exhaustion that has settled into her bones like sediment. This is her 3rd shift in 2 days, $63 in her checking account, rent due in 4 days. The men don't see her. They never do. She moves between them like smoke, refilling glasses, clearing plates, memorizing their faces without meaning to. Her mind, that restless, brilliant machine that has been both her greatest gift and her cruelest burden, catalogs everything. The CEO with the Patek Philippe who hasn't touched his foie gras. The hedge fund manager whose laugh is 3 decibels too loud, compensating for something. The venture capitalist who keeps checking his phone under the table, probably texting his mistress. Maya has a PhD in economics from Columbia, summa cum laude. She wrote her dissertation on forensic accounting methods for detecting securities fraud, a paper that was cited 17 times before she'd even defended it. Her professors called her the most gifted financial analyst of her generation. She speaks 4 languages fluently: English, Mandarin, Spanish, and French. She can read financial statements the way musicians read sheet music, hearing the melodies of money movement, the discordant notes of deception. Her mother immigrated from Shanghai with nothing but a suitcase and a dream. Her father came from humble beginnings in the Philippines, worked his way through night school, became a high school economics teacher who believed, truly, deeply believed, that education was the great equalizer. They raised Maya to be extraordinary. They sacrificed everything to give her opportunities they never had. That was before her father's stroke, before the medical bills that insurance wouldn't cover, before she discovered that a PhD and $3 will buy you a subway ride, but not much else. Before she had to defer her student loans, then default on them entirely. Before the job offers dried up because no one wants to hire someone with destroyed credit, no matter how many publications they have. Now she pours water for men who wouldn't notice if she burst into flames. More wine, one of them says without looking at her. Not a question, not a please, just a command delivered to the air, assuming someone will catch it. Maya catches it. She always does. As she reaches for the Chateau Margaux, $20,400 a bottle, more than she'll earn this month, she overhears fragments of conversation, numbers, percentages. A drug trial that didn't go as planned. Phase 3 complications. Someone mentions acceptable losses, and she feels her stomach turn. Her father spent his last conscious months in a hospital bed, waiting for a medication that kept getting delayed. FDA approvals, manufacturing setbacks, corporate priorities. She'd sat beside him every night after her shifts, holding his hand, watching his hope fade a little more each day. "Don't worry, mija," he'd whisper. "The medicine will come, and you'll do great things. You'll make us proud." He died waiting. The medication was approved 3 weeks after his funeral. She pours the wine. Her hand doesn't tremble. It never does. Not anymore. She's learned to compress her grief into something small and hard. A diamond of pain lodged somewhere behind her sternum. It's there when she wakes up. It's there when she falls asleep. It's there now as she watches these men decide the fates of millions over lamb chops and Bordeaux. The door opens. The room shifts. Marcus Ashford enters like weather changing. 62 years old, silver hair swept back from a face that graces the covers of Forbes and Fortune with metronomic regularity. Net worth, $47 billion, last time anyone checked. Founder and CEO of Ashford Capital Partners, the private equity firm that has acquired, restructured, and profited from over 200 companies in the past 3 decades. He built his empire from nothing. A scholarship kid from Ohio who clawed his way through Harvard Business School and emerged with an understanding of money that bordered on the preternatural. They say he can smell fraud the way sharks smell blood. They say he's never lost a deal he wanted to win. They say he's ruthless, brilliant, and utterly without sentiment. They're mostly right. The men at the table rise like puppets on strings. Marcus, we weren't expecting... I know you weren't. Ashford's voice carries the particular authority of a man who has never had to repeat himself. That's rather the point. Behind him walks a younger man, mid-30s, tailored suit, tablet in hand. His name is Derek Sloan, and Maya recognizes him from the financial news, Ashford's chief acquisitions officer, the man who engineered the hostile takeover of 3 pharmaceutical companies last year alone. And behind Sloan, almost as an afterthought, comes a third figure, Dr. Victor Harmon, silver-haired and distinguished, carrying a leather portfolio embossed with the logo of Harmon Authentication Services, the most prestigious document verification firm in the country. Maya knows the name. Harmon testified in 12 federal cases last year. His signature on an authentication certificate is worth millions. Gentlemen, Ashford says, settling into the chair at the head of the table, as if it had been waiting for him all along. We need to discuss the Meridian acquisition. Specifically, we need to discuss the provenance documents. The pharmaceutical executives exchange glances. Maya watches them from her corner, invisible, as their expressions shift from confidence to concern. The documents are impeccable, one of them says. Dr. Harmon himself verified them. Ashford turns to Harmon, who nods gravely. The Meridian patent portfolio is authentic, Harmon says, his voice carrying the weight of academic authority. I've examined the original filings, the research notes, the clinical trial documentation. Everything traces back to legitimate research conducted at Johns Hopkins between 2015 and 2019. He opens his portfolio and spreads documents across the table. Maya, moving closer to clear a plate, catches a glimpse of the papers, research notes, chemical formulas, signatures. Her mind begins to move. You're looking at a $2.4 billion acquisition, Ashford says. I don't move that kind of money without certainty. And you have certainty, one of the executives says eagerly. Dr. Harmon is the best in the business. Maya pours water. No one notices. No one ever notices. But as she leans over the table, her eye catches something on one of the documents. A date, a signature, a chemical formula written in the margin. Her hand freezes just for a moment, because she recognizes that formula. She wrote a paper on it. 3 years ago, during her doctoral research, she analyzed the patent filing for that exact compound, and the timeline doesn't match. The compound wasn't synthesized until 2020 at MIT, not Johns Hopkins. The documents are forgeries. Someone is about to steal $2.4 billion. She finishes pouring the water. Her face betrays nothing. 26 years of being underestimated has taught her the value of masks. You, Ashford says suddenly. Maya looks up. For the first time tonight, someone is looking directly at her. Yes, sir? Ashford studies her for a long moment. His eyes are the color of cold steel. Bring me a fresh napkin. This one has a spot. She nods, retrieves a napkin, places it beside his plate. As she does, Ashford reaches into his jacket and pulls out his wallet. He extracts a bill, crisp, folded, and places it on her serving tray. For your trouble, he says, dismissing her with a wave. Maya returns to her corner. She glances at the bill. $100, except it isn't. Maya's trained eye catches it immediately. The same eye that once spotted a $13 million discrepancy buried in a hedge fund's quarterly report. The paper is wrong. Too smooth, too white, lacking the subtle texture of genuine. Currency. The weight is wrong. Currency paper has a specific feel that counterfeiters never quite match. The security thread is positioned incorrectly, too far left, by exactly 2 millimeters. The microprinting along the border reads, "The United States of America." But the kerning is off, the letters too close together. Most people wouldn't notice. Most people don't look closely at money. But Maya Chen has spent years learning to see what others miss. It's a fake, a test. Maya looks up. Ashford is watching her from across the room, his expression unreadable, testing her, seeing if she'll notice, seeing if she'll say anything. She says nothing. She slips the bill into her pocket. She continues to pour water, but now she's paying attention to everything. The meeting continues. Maya continues to serve. But now her mind is a machine in overdrive, processing every detail with the precision that once earned her a standing ovation at the American Economic Association conference. She remembers that moment, standing at the podium in a borrowed blazer, presenting her research on detecting securities fraud through linguistic analysis of corporate communications. The audience of distinguished economists had listened in rapt silence. Afterward, a senior partner at Goldman Sachs had handed her his card. "Call me when you graduate," he'd said. "We need people like you." She never called. By the time she graduated, her father was in the ICU and her credit score was in freefall. But the mind that impressed those economists, that mind is still here, still sharp, still hungry. And right now, it's picking apart Dr. Harmon's presentation with surgical precision. Dr. Harmon speaks at length about the authenticity of the documents. His voice carries the practiced cadence of expert testimony, smooth, confident, designed to inspire trust. He references methodologies, provenance chains, spectroscopic analysis of the paper and ink. Maya listens, and Maya notices. The first discrepancy. Harmon mentions that the research notes were written on standard laboratory stock from the Johns Hopkins chemistry department. But Maya spent 3 months as a research assistant in that department during her undergraduate years. She knows their paper. She knows the watermark, a subtle Hopkins crest visible only under UV light. She knows the weight, the texture, even the way the edges feel when you run your thumb along them. She positions herself near the documents as she clears plates. The paper on the table has no watermark, not the right watermark anyway. These notes were printed, not written. The aging is artificial, tea staining, probably, or diluted coffee, a technique any decent forger would know. The original ink shows none of the fading patterns of genuine documents from 2017. It's too uniform, too consistent. The second discrepancy, the signature on the lead researcher's notes belongs to Dr. Ellen Morris, a renowned biochemist. Maya has read Dr. Morris's work extensively. She knows that Dr. Morris was on sabbatical in Geneva from February 2017 to August 2018. The documents claim research conducted at Johns Hopkins during that exact period. Dr. Morris couldn't have signed those documents. She wasn't in the country. The third discrepancy, the chemical compound in question, designated MRD-4419, wasn't successfully synthesized until 2020. Maya knows this because she was at the symposium where it was announced. She remembers the excitement in the room, the implications for oncology treatment. The compound couldn't have been patented in 2018 because it didn't exist yet. Someone has forged an entire patent history. Someone is selling Ashford Capital a portfolio of stolen intellectual property, dressed up in fraudulent documentation. And Dr. Victor Harmon, America's most trusted document authenticator, is in on it. Maya's heart pounds, but her hands remain steady. She pours wine, she clears plates, she watches. Harmon continues his presentation. "The FDA approval documentation," he says, spreading another set of papers across the table, "shows a clean regulatory pathway. No red flags, no outstanding compliance issues." Maya leans in to retrieve an empty glass. She sees the FDA letterhead. She sees the approval number. She knows that number. Her father's medication, the one that kept getting delayed, the one he died waiting for, had an FDA approval number. She memorized it during those long nights in the hospital, refreshing the FDA database over and over, hoping for news that never came. She can still recite it from memory. BLA 2021-7845. The 7000 series was allocated for biologics applications submitted after March 2021. The approval number on these documents is from the same sequential batch, BLA 2018-7892. But the dates don't align. Her father's medication was assigned that number series in 2021. These documents claim approval from 2018. The 7000 series didn't even exist in 2018. The forgers made a mistake. They used a number format that didn't exist yet. It's a small error, microscopic, the kind of detail that only someone who had stared at FDA approval numbers through tears of grief and desperation would ever notice. Maya notices. She straightens up. Her mind races through implications. If this fraud succeeds, Ashford Capital will pay billions for worthless intellectual property. The pharmaceutical executives will walk away rich. The real patent holders, whoever actually developed MRD-4419, will be robbed. And somewhere, someone's cancer treatment will be delayed while lawyers untangle the mess. More people will die waiting. Just like her father. She looks at Ashford. He's still watching her, that same unreadable expression on his face. The fake $100 bill sits heavy in her pocket. He tested her once tonight. She passed by, staying silent. But this is different. This is fraud on a scale that will hurt people. Real people. People like her father. She has a choice. She can stay invisible. She can keep her job, keep her head down, keep pouring water for men who will never see her. Or she can speak. Her father's voice echoes in her memory. The last words he spoke to her before the stroke took everything. Don't let them make you small, Maya. You're too bright for that. She takes a breath. The FDA approval number is wrong. Her voice cuts through the room like a blade. The words hang in the air, impossible and audacious. A waitress, speaking, contradicting an expert. In a room full of billionaires and executives who have never been contradicted by anyone, let alone someone in an apron, every head turns. 7 pharmaceutical executives. Derek Sloan with his tablet, Dr. Victor Harmon with his portfolio of lies, and Marcus Ashford, whose expression shifts from surprise to something else, something that might be interest. Excuse me? Harmon's voice is ice. Who are you? Maya sets down her pitcher. She steps forward, out of the shadows, into the light. The FDA approval number on your documentation, BLA 2018-7892, uses a formatting convention that wasn't implemented until 2021. The 7000 series batch was allocated for biologics applications submitted after March of that year. In 2018, the relevant sequence would have been in the 5,000 range. Silence. The kind of silence that precedes earthquakes. That's absurd, Harmon says, but his voice has changed. There's a crack in his confidence. I verified these documents personally. Then you verified them poorly. Maya crosses to the table. The executives shrink back as if she carries something contagious. May I? She doesn't wait for permission. She picks up the research notes, the ones supposedly written by Dr. Ellen Morris at Johns Hopkins. These documents claim to be original laboratory notes from the Hopkins chemistry department, but Hopkins uses watermarked stock for all official research documentation. Hold this up to the light. She demonstrates. The paper is blank. No watermark, no crest. Furthermore, the signature on these notes belongs to Dr. Ellen Morris, who was on sabbatical in Geneva from February 2017 to August 2018. She couldn't have signed documents at Johns Hopkins during that period because she wasn't in the country. I can provide you with the university's published sabbatical schedule if you'd like to verify. One of the pharmaceutical executives is sweating now. Maya notices. She catalogs. This is outrageous, Harmon says. I've been authenticating documents for 30 years. I'm not going to be questioned by a... He gestures dismissively at her uniform. By the help. By the help. Maya's voice is flat. The help with a PhD in economics from Columbia. The help who wrote a dissertation on forensic accounting methods, a dissertation that was cited in 3 federal fraud prosecutions. The help who has published 4 peer-reviewed papers on securities fraud detection. The help who graduated summa cum laude, spoke 4 languages by age 20, and was recruited by the Securities and Exchange Commission before circumstances intervened. The room goes silent. Even Ashford's eyebrows rise. She picks up another document, the patent filing for MRD 4419. But let's talk about the biggest problem. This compound, MRD 4419, according to your documents, was patented in 2018. But MRD 4419 wasn't synthesized until 2020. I was at the MIT symposium when Dr. Rachel Chen announced the breakthrough. No relation, by the way. I remember the date. March 15th, 2020. I remember because it was exactly 1 month after my father's stroke. I sat in that auditorium listening to her describe a compound that could revolutionize cancer treatment, and I thought about my father lying in a hospital bed, waiting for medicine that didn't exist yet. Her voice doesn't waver. It's beyond wavering now. That compound was published in Nature Chemistry in January 2021. You're trying to sell a patent for something that didn't exist when these documents were supposedly created. Either you're the most incompetent authenticator in history, or you're complicit in fraud worth billions. The room has gone very still, the kind of stillness that precedes verdicts. Harmon's face is the color of old paper. His hands shake as he reaches for the documents, as if touching them might somehow change what they say. This is a misunderstanding, he stammers. The compound was developed earlier, under a different designation. No. Maya's voice cuts like surgical steel. The molecular structure wasn't even theorized until 2019. Dr. Chen's team spent 18 months on the synthesis. There is no earlier designation because there was no earlier compound. These documents are forgeries, Dr. Harmon, and you authenticated them. You put your 30-year reputation behind a lie. She turns to face Ashford directly. Someone is trying to sell you $2.4 billion worth of stolen intellectual property dressed up in fraudulent documentation. The real question isn't whether these documents are fake. They obviously are. The real question is whether Dr. Harmon is incompetent or complicit. Harmon surges to his feet. How dare you? I've testified in federal court. I've authenticated documents for the Smithsonian, for the Library of Congress. You're nothing but a waitress with delusions of... Then explain the FDA numbers. Maya doesn't flinch. Explain the watermarks. Explain Dr. Morris's sabbatical. Explain how a compound that didn't exist until 2020 was patented in 2018. Harmon's mouth opens, closes, opens again. No words come out. One of the pharmaceutical executives, the one who's been sweating, pushes back from the table. I should go, he says. I have another meeting. Sit down. Ashford's voice is quiet, but it carries the weight of a man who has never been disobeyed. No one leaves this room until I understand exactly what's happening here. He turns to Maya, studies her. His eyes are calculating, measuring, reassessing. Everything he thought he knew. You notice the fake $100 bill. It's not a question. The security thread was positioned incorrectly, Maya says. 2 millimeters too far left. The microprinting kerning was off. The paper weight was wrong. She pulls the bill from her pocket and sets it on the table. I assumed it was a test. It was. Most people don't notice. I'm not most people. The sweating executive makes a break for the door. Derek Sloan, moving with surprising speed, blocks his path. Mr. Ashford, the executive pleads. I had no idea the documents were... I was assured by Dr. Harmon that... Be quiet. Ashford hasn't raised his voice once, but the room has become a cage. Dr. Harmon, how much were you paid? Harmon's composure finally shatters. His distinguished facade crumbles, revealing the sweating, desperate man beneath. His hands tremble as he shuffles through his documents, searching for something, anything that might save him. This is absurd, my reputation. I've testified before Congress. I've authenticated documents for the Vatican. And how many of those were fraudulent? Maya's voice is calm, almost gentle. How many times did you sell your credibility to the highest bidder? How many billions have changed hands based on your fraudulent expertise? Your reputation. Maya's voice is cold. Your reputation is built on trust, on the assumption that when Victor Harmon says a document is authentic, it's authentic. How many other frauds have you authenticated, Dr. Harmon? How many billions have been stolen on your word? Harmon looks around the room, searching for allies. He finds none. 2 million, he whispers finally. They paid me 2 million. The room exhales. The next hour unfolds with the precision of a controlled demolition. Ashford's security team arrives within minutes, 4 men in dark suits who move with military efficiency. Dr. Harmon is escorted from the room, his distinguished gray head bowed, his leather portfolio confiscated as evidence. As he passes Maya, he looks at her with an expression of pure hatred. She meets his gaze without flinching. The sweating executive, the one who tried to run, turns out to be the mastermind, a mid-level partner at Meridian named Gerald Whitmore, who saw an opportunity to manufacture patents worth billions. He'd recruited Harmon 18 months ago, promised him a cut of the profits. Together, they'd created an elaborate web of forged documents, fake research notes, and fraudulent FDA filings. You don't understand, Whitmore babbles as security restrains him. The patents are real. The compound works. We just needed to adjust the timeline. You stole intellectual property from MIT researchers, Maya says quietly. Dr. Rachel Chen spent 3 years developing that compound. You were going to profit from her work while she got nothing. She would have been compensated. She would have been robbed. There's a difference. Federal authorities are contacted. Lawyers are summoned. The other pharmaceutical executives, their faces various shades of gray, are questioned one by one. Some were complicit. They knew the documents were suspicious but looked the other way for a cut of the profits. Some were duped, genuinely believing they were investing in legitimate research. All of them are facing the end of their careers. Maya stands by the window, watching Manhattan glitter 43 stories below. The city looks different from up here, beautiful, distant, like a circuit board of light stretching to the horizon. Down there, somewhere, her tiny apartment waits, with its stack of overdue bills and her father's photo on the nightstand. Down there, people are finishing their shifts, counting their tips, wondering how they'll make rent. She feels strangely empty. The adrenaline that carried her through the confrontation has drained away, leaving exhaustion in its wake. Her hands are shaking now, finally, when no one is watching. She still has $63 in her checking account. She still has rent due in 4 days. She still has a father who died waiting for a medication that never came. Nothing has changed. Everything has changed. The last of the executives is led away. The Vandermeer Room, which hosted so much wealth and power just hours ago, is now empty except for Maya, Ashford, and Derek Sloan. The silence stretches. Who are you? Ashford's voice is different now. The cold authority is still there, but it's been joined by something else. Curiosity, respect, wonder even, though he'd probably never admit it. In 40 years of business, he has met thousands of intelligent people. Analysts who could model markets, lawyers who could find loopholes in any contract, consultants who could optimize any operation. He has never met anyone quite like this. Maya turns from the window. She's still wearing her black uniform, her white apron. Her hair is still pulled back too tight. But something in her posture has shifted. She stands straighter now. The invisible woman has become visible, and she's not shrinking back into the shadows. My name is Maya Chen. I have a PhD in economics from Columbia University, specializing in forensic accounting and securities fraud detection. My dissertation was cited 17 times before I defended it. My professors called me the most gifted financial analyst of my generation. She pauses, takes a breath. The next part is harder to say. I speak 4 languages. I can read a balance sheet faster than most people can read a menu. I published 4 peer-reviewed papers before I turned 25. I was supposed to change the world. Her voice wavers. She steadies it. I graduated at the top of my class. I had job offers from 4 major firms, Goldman, McKinsey, Bain, and the SEC. And then my father had a stroke. The medical bills destroyed us. Insurance covered the hospital stay, but not the rehabilitation, not the specialized care, not the medication he needed. I deferred my student loans, then defaulted. My credit was destroyed. The job offers disappeared. No one wants to hire someone who can't pass a background check, no matter how many publications they have. Ashford says nothing. His face is unreadable. My father died 8 months ago. He spent his last weeks waiting for a cancer medication that kept getting delayed. FDA approvals, manufacturing setbacks, corporate priorities. Her voice wavers, just slightly. He died waiting for a drug that might have saved him. And tonight, I watched men try to steal billions by forging pharmaceutical patents. So yes, I spoke up, because I couldn't watch it happen. Not again. The silence that follows is different from before. Heavier, more human. You saved me $2.4 billion tonight, Ashford says quietly. I did my job. Your job is pouring water. My job tonight was pouring water. My capability is something else entirely. Ashford almost smiles. Almost. The fake 100. Why didn't you say anything? It wasn't hurting anyone. Just you testing me. But the documents, that was different. That was going to hurt people. Real people. People like my father. He nods slowly. Something shifts in his expression. I've spent 30 years building an empire, he says. I've hired thousands of people. Analysts, lawyers, consultants. Experts of every kind. None of them caught what you caught tonight. None of them had the knowledge or the perception or... He pauses, searching for the word. Or the courage. I had nothing to lose. You had your job, your income, the little stability you have left. Some things matter more. Now Ashford does smile. It transforms his face, softening the cold steel of his features into something almost warm. Yes, he says, they do. Derek Sloan has been silent throughout, watching the exchange with barely concealed astonishment. His tablet has gone dark, forgotten. In his 15 years at Ashford Capital, he has never seen the old man look at anyone the way he's looking at this waitress. Now he steps forward, ever the professional. Mr. Ashford, if I may, you may not. Ashford doesn't take his eyes off Maya. Ms. Chen, I'm creating a new position at Ashford Capital, Chief Forensic Analyst. It's a position that has never existed before, because I've never met anyone qualified to fill it, until tonight. He stands, moves to the window, looks out at the same view Maya was contemplating moments ago. $47 billion, and he's still restless, still searching for something he can't quite name. You would report directly to me. Your mandate would be to examine every acquisition, every partnership, every deal that crosses my desk. Root out fraud before it costs us. Protect the integrity of our investments. Be the last line of defense against people like Harmon and Whitmore. Maya's breath catches. She doesn't dare believe what she's hearing. The starting salary is $400,000 with performance bonuses tied to fraud prevention. Every fraud you catch, every scheme you expose, adds to your compensation. You'll have a staff of 12 analysts to train and lead. People who will learn from you the way you learned from your professors. A budget of your own design. And the authority to halt any transaction you deem suspicious, no questions asked. He turns to face her. Is that acceptable? $400,000. More than she's earned in the past 5 years combined. enough to pay off her student loans, enough to clear her father's medical debts, enough to rebuild her credit, her career, her life. But Maya doesn't say yes, not yet. I have conditions, she says. Derek Sloan makes a strangled noise. Ashford's eyebrows rise. Conditions. First, I need real authority. If I flag a transaction as fraudulent, it stops. No arguments, no overrides from partners who want the deal to go through. My word is final. Agreed. Second, I want to establish an ethics committee for pharmaceutical acquisition specifically. Too many people are getting hurt by companies that prioritize profit over patients. If we're going to be in this business, we're going to do it right. That's ambitious, but not unreasonable. Agreed. Third, Maya's voice softens. I want to establish a scholarship fund, the Chen Family Foundation for Economic Justice. It would support first-generation college students pursuing careers in forensic accounting and fraud prevention, full tuition, living expenses, guaranteed internship placement. I want to find other people like me, brilliant people trapped by circumstances, and give them the chance I almost didn't get. Ashford is quiet for a long moment. He looks at her, really looks at her, and sees something he hasn't seen in a very long time. Not greed, not ambition, something purer. Something that reminds him of himself 40 years ago, before the billions and the board meetings and the endless parade of people who wanted something from him. Named after your father? After my family. My father taught me that knowledge is the only wealth that can't be stolen. My mother taught me that courage without compassion is just aggression. They raised me to believe that brilliance comes with responsibility, that if you see something wrong, you speak up, even if it costs you everything. She meets his eyes. I want to give that to other people, people like me, people the system has failed, people who are pouring water in rooms like this right now, carrying degrees they can't use, carrying potential that no one asks about. The silence stretches. Derek Sloan looks like he's about to have a medical event. The Ashford Foundation will match all contributions to the Chen Family Foundation, Ashford says finally. Dollar for dollar, no upper limit. We'll announce it at the next board meeting. Maya extends her hand. Ashford takes it. Welcome to Ashford Capital, Ms. Chen. Thank you, Mr. Ashford, but I have one more request. Of course you do. The other waitstaff here tonight, the people who are invisible, just like I was. I want Ashford Capital to sponsor a financial literacy program for service workers. Teach them about investment, retirement planning, how to avoid predatory loans. Give them the tools to build wealth instead of just serving it. Because the people who pour your wine and clear your plates, they deserve the same opportunities you had. Ashford laughs, a real laugh, warm and surprised. It's a sound that Derek Sloan has never heard in 15 years. You're going to be expensive, Ms. Chen. I just saved you $2.4 billion. Consider it an investment. Agreed. He shakes his head slowly, something like wonder in his voice. All of it, every condition, agreed. In 40 years of business, I've never had a job candidate negotiate like this. Most people would have taken the money and run. I'm not most people. No. Ashford smiles again. You're certainly not. Maya Chen, 26 years old, PhD in economics, former waitress, daughter of immigrants who believed in the power of knowledge. Maya Chen takes off her apron, folds it neatly, and sets it on the table. In her mind, she hears her father's voice one last time. Don't let them make you small, Maya. You're too bright for that. She isn't small anymore. She won't need the apron anymore.